Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take all that dense information out there, stuff you maybe wanted to get into, and we just pull out the single most interesting bits so you walk away knowing something cool, maybe something a bit unexpected. Today, we're putting a plant under the microscope, a really common house plant, actually. The crown of thorns, you've probably seen it, Euphorbia Milii. It's got those tough stems, big thorns. But what everyone notices are those like really bright splashes of color at the tips. Usually red, sometimes pink or yellow, and everyone naturally calls them the flowers. Well, that's what we're digging into today. We've got some specific notes here, excerpts from something called Crown of Thorns, The True Flower Revealed, which was part of Notes on Gardening, Part 630 from back in 2025. And our mission really is botanical truth. What are those colorful bits the plant is showing off?
Yeah, and it's a perfect example of, perception versus reality. What we see versus what's biologically happening. Most people, they just see the bright color, right? And they think, okay, petals, that's the flower. That's what flowers do. They're showy. But the sources, these notes, they show us it's kind of an illusionist, this plant. It's optimized its look very cleverly. So we're giving you the shortcut, basically, to understand what the sources figured out about its actual structure.
Okay, let's unpack this. So if you have one of these plants, or you've seen them, you know exactly what we mean. They're visually striking. The sources even talk about showy clusters of color that dominate the plant's appearance. That bright red, especially against the green leaves, it really pops.
It absolutely does. And that's the plant's main strategy, visually speaking.
Yeah.
In botany, we usually think the most colorful, the biggest part is the flower, or at least the petals designed to attract pollinators. So you see these bright, often oval-shaped things. Sometimes there are two, sometimes they look fused, and your brain just goes, petal, or bloom. It's an easy assumption.
That's the key psychological trick, isn't it? The plant's sort of playing on our expectations of what a flower should look like. We expect big and bright, and these structures deliver on that. But if we follow the technical details in these notes on gardening, it's all misdirection.
It really is. And that's what's fascinating here. The sources are clear. What look like petals, what everyone thinks are petals, are actually, they're modified leaves, or leaf-like structures. They're built for display, yeah, but not for reproduction directly.
Modified leaf-like structures. Wow. Okay, that's a huge difference, botanically speaking. We're not talking petals, which are part of the flower itself. We're talking about a leaf that's just changed jobs, basically.
Yeah.
And colored itself. And the source gives us the proper term, these red oval things. They're called bracts, B-R-A-C-T-S.
Exactly, bracts. And botanically, they're quite distinct from petals. Different origin, different tissue. The sources point out that if you look really, really closely, like with magnification, which the author of Part 630 obviously did, you'd see differences. Maybe in the vein patterns, little clues telling you, yep, this started as a leaf. The plant has literally just, dyed some of its leaves red or pink and shaped them to look appealing.
So it's put all this energy into making these leaf bracts colorful.
Yeah.
Little advertisements. But okay, if those are just the flashy ads, the bracts,
Yeah.
what about the actual flower, the true flower? Where is it? What do the bracts do for it?
Well, their job, according to the notes, is kind of twofold. Attraction, yes, definitely. They're the big, bright billboard saying, hey, pollinators over here.
Yeah.
But they also protect what's inside. They form a sort of cup or casing around the real business end of things. They're like the colorful, tough outer shell.
A shell. Okay. So if we mentally peel back that shell, look past the bright red bracts,
Yeah.
what's inside, what does the true flower look like based on the sources?
The contrast is pretty dramatic. This is where knowing the details really changes things. The source material describes the actual reproductive parts, the true flowers, as being, let me quote here, small, unassuming, inconspicuous, and quite pale. They're tucked right down inside that cup the bracts make. Tiny. Often, like less than a millimeter or two across.
Right, less than a millimeter, seriously.
Yeah.
When the bracts can be, what, an inch across sometimes?
Yeah, easily.
So the size difference is huge,
Mhm.
like 50 to 1, maybe more. That's not just subtle. That feels like deliberate hiding.
It practically is. The true flower structure, technically in Euphorbias, it's called a cyathemium. It just holds the essential bits, the stamens, the pistil, the parts that actually make seeds. It doesn't need to be flashy because the bracts took over the advertising job.
Ah,
Okay.
outsource the marketing department to the leaves.
Exactly. So the true flower's job is purely functional. Produce pollen, receive pollen. It's all about efficiency. Keep it small, keep it protected.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, because that level of deception, hiding the real flower, it suggests a big difference in how the plant uses its energy, right, which the sources mention. Making those bracts bright red must cost something metabolically. Pigments aren't free, but it's apparently cheaper than making the actual flower big and red.
Yeah.
Why do that? Why not just have a big red flower?
Well, it comes down to efficiency and risk, really. Classic nature move. And the source kind of points towards this. Imagine if the whole reproductive structure, the actual flower parts, were big and bright red.
Yeah.
That would take a lot more energy, more water, more nutrients to build and maintain. And maybe more importantly, it'd be a much bigger, more tempting target for, say, something that wants to eat it, or just physical damage, wind, rain.
Right, like putting all your valuable eggs in one big, obvious basket.
Precisely. So by using these, well, essentially disposable leaves, the bracts, for the big visual show, the plant gets maximum attraction, but if a bract gets nibbled or torn, it's not a disaster. It's relatively cheap to replace. And meanwhile, the really crucial parts, the tiny, pale reproductive bits inside, stay safe and sound, tucked away in that protective cup.
So maximize the visual impact, minimize the risk to the important stuff, resource optimization.
That's it. Maximum bang for your biological buck, you could say.
That makes perfect sense. It's like put up flashy posters everywhere, but keep the actual printing press small and hidden in the back room. And I love that the notes we have from part 630 even include this little aside that really hammers home how tiny and hidden these true flowers are. You mentioned the author had a regret.
Oh, yeah. It's a great little detail. The author, Ang, writing back on August 19th, 2025, they put in this note, almost like a frustrated sigh in parentheses, saying they really regretted not having, and I quote, better high-powered macro camera equipment with them at the time. Why? To get a good, clear photo of the actual pale flower structure. They just couldn't capture it properly with what they had.
Wow. So even someone studying the plant specifically to document the true flower found it hard to photograph because it was so small and nondescript.
Exactly.
That says it all, doesn't it? About the scale of this botanical trickery. You basically can't appreciate the true flower unless you're really looking for it, maybe with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, most people just glance at the plant, from across the room or walking by. They see red. Job done, in their mind.
Yeah.
Tiny, pale flowers. They're visually designed to be ignored by us humans. They might rely on very specific pollinators that are attracted maybe by scent or tiny nectar guides we can't see, along with the big red landing strip of the bracts.
So the bracts get your attention, draw you in. But the real action is happening in that nearly invisible center.
Okay, so we started thinking we knew this common plant, and now we know every time we admire its blooms, we're actually appreciating a very clever leaf. We're falling for an evolutionary con. So what does this all mean for you listening?
Well, I think it means we've just grabbed a really neat, precise bit of knowledge that completely reframes something familiar. It's not just a pretty plant anymore, is it? It's this amazing little case study in how nature saves energy and uses strategic design. The plant basically created this, false front, investing in the cheap replaceable billboards, the bracts, instead of making the vital reproductive machinery, the tiny flowers, big and vulnerable. So next time you see a crown of thorns, Euphorbia Milii, you're looking at this highly evolved little survival machine. It's optimized for visual punch while keeping its most essential part safe. It really confirms what the source was getting at. Efficiency drives how things look and function, even if the result is, pretty sneaky. Right, which leaves us with a provocative thought for you to take away. Next time you encounter any system, really, where the most obvious part, the loudest part, the brightest part grabs all the attention, think about this plant. Whether it's, something in nature or maybe even a news story or a new gadget, ask yourself, is this flashy bit the real engine? Or is it maybe the decoy? The colorful bract, strategically placed to draw your eye, while the small, maybe pale, but absolutely critical element stays protected, unassuming, hidden inside. Did you realize just how much subtle deception might be around us, all designed to protect something small and vital? We've definitely uncovered the truth behind the crown of thorns today. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.